Hundreds of people a year are killed legally around the world. This graph shows from 2007 to 2012 the amount of people executed by country: China in the thousands, and the United States only in fifth with 220. What is capital punishment? Well, capital punishment is the execution of an offender sentenced to death after conviction by a court of law. This has been practiced for centuries and ranges from all kinds of execution, from firing squads to electric chairs, lethal injection, and many other things. I've always been interested in this topic, and I've done a lot of research in school about it, and I think that it is wrong in a lot of ways, and I'm going to cover some major reasons why I think that capital punishment is wrong and why it should be abolished. So, why is this practice wrong? Along the U.S. justice system, along with many other justice systems across the world, is far from perfect. Because of that, many people are wrongfully convicted and punished and have to pay the ultimate price, which is death. Carlos de Luna was arrested for an alleged stabbing of Wanda Lopez in 1983. He was on death row for 6 years, and the story was that he was with a friend named Carlos Hernandez, and they were hanging out, and then Carlos Hernandez went across the street to go do something, and he didn't tell de Luna. And when Hernandez didn't return, de Luna went to go look for him, and when he went to go look for him, he found Lopez lying dead on the street, and de Luna had a criminal record and didn't want to be seen with the body, so he ran, and police later found him and arrested him. He was put on death row, and just purely based on one eyewitness that saw him near the body. There was no other evidence that proved de Luna did this crime, and even years after the execution, the eyewitness said that he wasn't even sure if it was de Luna or not. The Death Penalty Information Center says that since 1973, more than 165 people have been wrongly convicted and sentenced to death, but then have been exonerated. This is an irreversible act, and to receive the ultimate punishment for something that someone did not do, I think is wrong. Reason number 2, failure to deter crime. Stanford law professor John Dewey argues that there is not the slightest credible statistical evidence that capital punishment reduces the rate of homicides, and he presents data that the death penalty is not an effective deterrent. If there's no tangible evidence, why continue to do it? This graph shows the murder rates of states with the death penalty and states without the death penalty. As you can see, since 1990, every year since 1990, murder rates are higher in states that have the death penalty versus the ones that don't. Reason number 3, the cost of legal murder. The cost of convicting and executing Timothy McVeigh, who is the Oklahoma City bomber, was upwards $13 million. Death penalty cases often cost more due to longer trials, more experts having to be put on the cases, and more lawyers. New Jersey practiced capital punishment, but stopped due to high costs. They spent over $253 million in their 25-year span of having the punishment, and they didn't execute a single person. This graph shows the expenses of California, and since 1978, they've spent $4.6 billion, and they've only executed 13 people. I think that this money could be used in other places instead of such a negative aspect, could be put into more of a positive thing like school funding, things like that. The solution. This practice won't get abolished overnight, unfortunately, so we have to take the right steps into We have to take the right steps in that direction. I think one of the first things that we can do is to make sure that people on death row actually committed the crimes that they're being charged for. I think that that's a great first step, is to make sure that no one on death row is actually innocent. Another thing that everyone can do is email our governors, let them know about our opinions, and tell them that they need to review their policy. Nebraska, Arizona, North Carolina, Maryland, and Indiana have all initiated reviews in considering abolishing capital punishment in their states. This is what death row looks like. This is the last room people on death row will ever see, to be strapped onto a table in such an inhumane way and have your life taken from you from another man. I think as humans, we should not have the right to do this, to take someone else's life. It makes us no better than them. I think this should be left to God's power. To conclude, I think capital punishment is wrong. It fails to deter crime. Its funding could be put in such more positive aspects of society. And most importantly, I think, is that it wrongfully kills innocent people. So I asked everyone in the audience to educate yourselves and educate others so that maybe one day we can get this terrible policy abolished. Thank you.